So I just want to go over the benefits of creative financing to the buyer, to you as the buyer. And creative financing is very powerful, right? When it's done, it's typically a win-win situation. You as the buyer, you benefit because maybe you don't have much cash, right? You can better leverage with creative financing. Maybe you don't have any experience. Maybe you want to leverage your resources, and maybe you just need a short-term bridge financing, right? Before getting a permanent loan. So, I just kind of wanted to show the benefits of creative financing to the buyer, but for the most part, you're trying to convince the seller as to why it benefits them. But just wanted to provide at least some baseline knowledge as to how it can benefit you as the buyer, and it can really help you scale pretty significantly, and it's a lot less headache doing creative financing versus trying to get banks involved. So hopefully this becomes very helpful for you. So the first benefit is the buyer has little cash, right? With creative financing, all financing terms are negotiated. And down payments are usually less than 25%, which is the standard if you're going through a lender, a bank. And for me, I aim for 10% or less, depending on the cash flow. And that's the beauty, right? And also you can do down payments in installments, right? Like if they're so turned off by a 10% down, and let's just say you need 20% down, you can do 5% year upfront, 5% year one, 5% year two, and 5% year three. All right, so that's why they're getting their 20%, but it's just spread out over a few years. So in an example here, if you need 10% down, give 5% at the close of escrow, and then give the remaining 5% after 1 year. And if the property cash flows a lot, you can, the cash flow can cover that remaining 5% down, and that's where it becomes powerful. If the cash flow covers the 5% remaining down, then you essentially only put down 5% to get this apartment complex. And this is the strategy I use when the owner wants a higher down payment, right? So if they want that 25% down, then I said, well, I'll give you 5% a year over the next couple of years. And usually they won't say no to that, right? So, because they're getting what they want, it's just that it's spread out. So it's just kind of a little hack that I've learned when pitching creative financing. Next, if the buyer, you have bad credit or no experience, maybe you went through a bankruptcy recently, and as a result, your credit score's shot, so you won't qualify for a bank loan. Remember, they look at the property first in commercial, then you second, but they still look at you second, right? So you still have to have a decent credit score, but you might be in a situation where you don't have a good credit score, and you can still make deals work, right? And you need to master creative financing to make it work for you. And sometimes if you don't have prior experience in apartment complexes, then you won't qualify for a bank loan as well. And you're stuck in that paradox that, well, how can I get experience if no one will give me a shot? And this is a way to bypass it, right? So let's say you get one via creative financing, then when you go for another traditional loan with a lender, you can say, I have experience now, right? I'm managing a 20-unit apartment complex that I got through, seller financing. So, now you have a track record. Next, sometimes you as a buyer, you want to leverage your resources, right? It allows you to scale faster. Why use 25% down on one property when you can use 25% down to buy two properties using creative financing, right? So it lets you scale. And with the lower down payment, your cash on cash return grows exponentially, right? If you do 25% down, a good cash on cash return day one is like 6 to 10%, but with creative financing, like you're talking like double that at least. especially if you structure your terms correctly. Your cash and cash return is huge. So, it's how people scale so rapidly, and they leverage your resources, right? And this is the way to do it. Sometimes the buyer, you as a buyer, need short-term bridge financing, right? Some properties may not qualify, right? If it's needs a lot of repair, there's a lot of high vacancy, there's a lot of deferred maintenance, then sometimes you might need that short-term bridge financing, prior to getting your permanent traditional bank financing. And bridge financing has similar rates and terms as hard money. 35% down, 10 to 14% interest only. So, if you can get the owner to do creative financing, it's faster and cheaper for you, right? And sometimes the owner wants the money at the end to allocate to their business, so you just can pitch them like, hey, can you just give me maybe 2 to 3 years to stabilize this apartment, and then once it's stabilized, I'm gonna pitch it to my lender to get some permanent financing, and at that point you will get all your money, right? So it's just another tool on your belt here, for creative financing.